And now I'd like to welcome to the program here on TVP World Daniel Seaman. He's an advisor to the IDSF and former Israeli government official in the office of the Prime Minister. Hello, sir. Thank you for joining us today on TVP World.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, after seeing the, absolutely spectacular performance of the Israeli Defense Forces as well as other partners, key partners to Israel's defense, over this attack on Saturday, I think the most important thing I could ask first is what kind of response can be expected? I mean, the defense of Israel was so successful, and I think people around the world are wondering, what is the next move? What is Israel? How will Israel respond to this mass attack?
I laugh because that's the big question that everybody's asking here as well. I participated in a television program last night on one of the Israeli channels, and everybody was speculating. Something I said there, and I'll repeat it here, is that we have to realize we're in a different kind of war. Not only what Israel is doing in Gaza with the terrorists in Gaza and the underground activities, the fact that the terrorists have embedded themselves among civilian population, this is not entirely new, but the level of which, the extent to which Israel has to deal with this is unprecedented. So we're learning as we're moving along, and all the eyes of military experts are on that activity there. At the same time, with Iran, we also faced an unprecedented attack against us. Now, unlike what happened to us on the 7th of October, which was a surprise, and it took us by surprise, and we weren't really prepared, and then the kind of battle was new, for what is going on with Iran, we've been planning for the best part of the past decade and a half. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has been especially focused on this. And there were two things here. First, preparing ourselves to defend ourselves from the missile threat. And here, for the first time, we used the types of defense weapons that have never been in full operation before. And also the level in which we met had never, no country has faced that amount of weapons. Now, it's not only the defense weapons that we've used there, it's also the collaboration, not only with the United States, Britain, and France, which should be natural and expected, but also with Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and from what we understand, not that I have any privy to it, but I'm just saying from the understanding here between the lines, there were other Middle Eastern countries involved who took part in first undermining the Iranian ability and second assisting Israel. So this is all new, but the type of warfare is different, but also the situation is very different. So with Iran, in the sense that when the leader, the Iranian leader of these forces, the Revolutionary Guards in Syria and Lebanon, was taken out a few weeks ago, he was convening a very secret, high-level secret meeting with some of the members of their proxies in Lebanon and Syria. Nobody was supposed to know about this, and yet Israel knew precisely where he was going to be. And I add that to the fact that we were able to get all the plans that the Iranians had for their nuclear capabilities a few years ago, which was presented by the Prime Minister. It's clear that we have unprecedented intelligence on what is going on in Iran as well. So do we have to respond as should be expected by any country that comes under attack? That's the debate going on right now. The Prime Minister, has he chosen, or has the government, it's not only a decision of the Prime Minister, but has the government of Israel decided not to take immediate steps in retaliation? Could be, because there are other things that we can do. There have been operations conducted in Iran by unnamed sources for the better part of 10 years. Mm-hmm. Sources outside of Israel say that Israelis are involved in that. I personally do not know. But even assuming that who else has an interest in doing so, there are abilities and things that can be done to send a very clear message to the Iranians. And I think that right now the message, we really left them in a very embarrassing situation that they were completely impotent in what they did. And that is enough in the Middle East, the shameful situation of using your entire might and coming out looking rather ridiculous I think that is punishment enough. So that could be enough for us not to take any action, but it's hard to say at the moment. I really don't know what the thinking is there, so it's only an assessment.
So now, just to follow up on what you just said, that there are other things that Israel can do, are there any ways, maybe any diplomatic solutions to what has happened after Saturday night?
You can't negotiate or have diplomatic solutions with those who are vowed to your annihilation. The Iranians have made it very clear. They were doing this through proxies over the past few years. It's the first time that they did it directly, but they've made their intentions very clear. So what are we going to negotiate with them, that they annihilate us later and not now? No, the Iranian regime has to be eradicated, just as Hamas and others. And this is where the international community, and I think more than anything else, the use of ballistic missiles, which took about 40 minutes to reach Israel, should be very clear. It's only another hour by aircraft from Israel to Europe. So all the Europeans are under threat as well. And they don't have the kind of defense systems that we do here in Israel. Although we share all our knowledge with the United States, and everything that we develop here is naturally shared with the Americans. But we were prepared for this. So it should be very clear to them, as it is to all other Middle Eastern countries, not only to Israel, that Iran, this Iranian extreme regime, poses a threat to world peace, world order. And they shouldn't be concerned of what Iran may do if we retaliate. They should be concerned of exactly the fact that what Iran will do to them as well. So that's where the focus should be at the moment.
Right. Now, looking at what Iran has done, I mean, it's been threatening large-scale attacks such as this for a long time now. And I think a lot of people were, well, naturally wondering how successful Iran would be if it would launch such an attack. But here we sit, knowing the results of the attack and the success of Israeli Defense Forces along with its partners on potentially eliminating 99% of this threat. So what is the feeling there in Israel as a result of seeing this? That is Iran looked as maybe a lesser threat than it maybe previously was, or?
No, not at all, because as I said, there are other actions that they can take. This was supposed to be the new age attack against Israel, if we want to be a bit ironic about it. Mm-hmm. But they've been working with proxies, with terrorist organizations, using Hamas, Hezbollah, Iraqi forces, the Houthis in Yemen. And they were thinking of creating a war of attrition against Israel to make it difficult for us to affect our economy, to slowly have us bleed. Unfortunately, one of their proxies was successful with this, Hamas, on October 7th, but we haven't learned our lesson and made it very clear to us with exactly what we're dealing with. The concern now is that it's quite clear what Netanyahu has been saying for over a decade, that Iran cannot be allowed to have nuclear weapons, just as they use these weapons unprecedented in an unprecedented attack against Israel. They'll have nuclear weapons. You have to understand the mindset of Shia Islamism. They want to bring on the Mahdi, and by bringing him on means by even killing themselves, by creating this international situation. They believe that will bring on the next inheritor to Muhammad. That's their religious belief. You can't change that through negotiation. This is just like saying, okay, let's negotiate with Christians, with the Catholic Church. You forget about Christ coming back, and we'll have peace with you, if they were dedicated to your annihilation in order to bring back Christ. So if you look at it by that prism, and you understand that this is fanatical religious beliefs, and they believe that they will bring the reincarnation of the next Mahdi, it's clear that you can't negotiate with this. And they've not only fought against Israel, they're fighting against all the Sunni regimes in the Middle East. They fired, they had their first war was with Iraq. They fired a few months ago, they fired in the direction of Pakistan. So it's clearly not just Israel. We're just closest here, and they feel that they can get the support of other Arab countries, other Muslim countries, by focusing on Israel first. It didn't quite work for them this time, but I think it should be a huge awakening to European countries and the United States that the Iranian threat is not only Israel.
So now you mentioned Iran and its proxies. So would you say that this recent attack, which took place on Israel, has brought Israel and its allies even closer, and the cooperation will be closer and bigger?
Yeah, that's one of the outcomes of this has been quite interesting. Even Jordan, who has been quite critical of Israel in past few months, but the regime knows that it needs to first and foremost preserve itself. And one of the things the Iranians have been doing is trying to undermine the Jordanian Hashemite kingdom because they feel that they're the weakest link in this. They have control in Syria through the Hezbollah. They have control in Lebanon. And now they want to control Jordan as well. So the Jordanians were quite aware of this. Saudi Arabia also, despite the measures of drawing themselves closer to Iran in recent months, they also know exactly who they're dealing with. So this action brought all of them together, which could also be a consideration that the prime minister is taking into account, because what Iran did by using Hamas, and by the way, we know that commander who was taken out a few weeks ago, he was the one who trained, was responsible for the training and the preparation of Hamas for October 7th assault. So they were the ones behind this. So it's not, when he was taken out, it wasn't something, this was part of the war, the ongoing war between Israel and Iran, which Iran can no longer hide behind its proxies. So we do have a consideration that, well, I was going back to what I was saying before. The Iranians wanted to undermine the Abrahamic Accords, which were bringing Israel and the Muslim countries around us closer, and letting them understand that actually there's a lot to gain from cooperation with Israel. First off, vis-a-vis trade with Europe. Second, with the ability, and I think Israel showed that very wonderfully with its technical abilities with the Iranian attack, not only militarily, but what the Arab countries can gain just by sheer cooperation on a regional level, and turn this area, instead of being a battlefield, into a very strong economic center if we all cooperate. So Iranians tried to prevent that, and the Prime Minister may very much want to preserve this.
End it right here. Daniel Seaman, advisor to the ISDF and former Israeli government official in the office of the Prime Minister. Thank you very much for your time and for speaking to us here on TVP World.
Thank you.